Hi, I'm Dave Woodman. How are you?
How do you do?
I guess Randy's told you where we want to go and all that good stuff.
Well, we'll confirm it. We're just pulling out the map.
Yeah.
We're going to check the aerial photo and go from there.
Sure. Yeah. My understanding was that you take us in with the otter, we drop our gear and some of our people, but we're going to set up our camp somewhere in this area here.
Last July, Woodman led his own expedition to King William Island.
Get us there, Steve, and we might even get you a discount.
Yeah, right on.
A modern-day explorer, he travels by air.
When I wrote the book, it's all speculation. Everybody who does anything on Franklin is speculation. But I tried to make my speculations testable. You know, you go here, you look here, if you find this, then perhaps my speculation plays out. So this is the best way, and this is one of the tests. Looking for the records in this place, looking for the wreck in another place, are both good tests of the way that I thought the expedition came to play out. It's only fair that I should be involved in trying to prove myself right or wrong. It certainly does enhance my credibility for a guy who's never been north of Yellowknife to come up here and organize a party of this size, which is one of the largest searching parties ever to come up here for this length of time.
The Canadian Geographical Society thinks Woodman's research has merit, so they're paying for this trip.
Now, do you want to put a piece of flagging on the end here for windsock?
Dr. George Hobson is here on behalf of the Society. Hobson's been bitten by the Franklin bug himself.
We've got no written record other than that one note, and so it's a mystery.
We're on King William Island, about 2 miles south of Cooper Lake, 2 miles south of Cooper Lake, on the hill just south of Cooper Lake. I think we're on a go now and ready to go to the field.
Okay, I'll talk to you tonight.
Thank you, David. Victory Point clear with 2-4.
They left the ships in 1848. You know, maybe they were running out of food or whatever. For whatever reason, they decided to leave the ships. And
Walt's a scientist. Walt's my primary asset on here. Everyone else is pretty well a pair of eyes that have come up for their own agenda, but Walt is the one I needed.
Walt Cowell is an archaeologist, and only an archaeologist can get a permit like the one Woodman needs for this search.
each person has their own theory, and I welcome the opportunity to come up here this time. I may not have totally agreed or even thought that, David Woodman's interpretation of what was happening was 100%, but I looked at it, well, he may be correct, and only one way to do that is to go up and test it.
What we're really looking for is a sandy spot with two large stones over a big hole and a bunch of little stones fit together nearby.
It could have easily filled in with sand over the last 150 years, and that may be the precise location. And if we have a person every 5 feet or 10 feet, we're not going to miss anything obvious, and if there was somebody buried here, he would have to be buried very deep and completely camouflaged by, natural events or whatever, so that it looks natural.
I'm very daunted by how bleak it is and how big it is, even though it's not nearly as big on the map. Still an awful lot of ground to cover, but we did a lot today. I'm encouraged that the conditions seem to fit in with Supunger's tail. The problem is that it seems to fit in almost anywhere you look. Okay, well, a couple things. Up till now, we've basically been working with no rules, and I think it's about time we started to get some routines and some rules in place. We also got to be a little faster getting organized. Today, we'll break up into our 2 4-man groups. Everybody know who they are? If you find anything, don't touch it, mark it. Walt will take a look at it, okay? We know there's a skull, we know there's other bones, and we're going to try and do a detailed grid such as we did here yesterday, but now we know where we're looking. All right, let's go. Let's go.
They're off.
There's a harpoon
How do
head.
you know?
It fits right in there. You could see how he took some of this off.
This other thing,
to make it
there's
fit.
probably another one,
Right.
just like this right here somewhere.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for.
The other
It's
half
still
of it.
sharp.
Because they flap like wings.
Kill something with this.
This was the first thing they found. Paul found it. And then Jim came to the edge here and pointed out the skull lying proud down there. When we found the skull, I was ready to, jump up and down and say, we've got a Franklin skull here. So I need Walt on my shoulder saying, well, listen, we don't even know that this is a white skull yet. I knew that in the back of my mind, of course, but I don't want it to be true. The next 2 days, we're going to go over this area in more detail and find out what we've actually got. We're still missing the things that I came for. We're still missing the sandy mound and the 2 excavations that are covered over by stones, which Supunger spoke of. And they should be nearby. On Monday, when Yellowknife comes back into business, we'll get on the radio and tell them that we found human remains and see what they say. But I'm not too confident that they're going to give us permission to do anything except map it out.
The permit Woodman has is for searching only. To have Cowell take a closer look at the skull, Woodman has to get permission from the Prince of Wales Cultural Centre in Yellowknife. As they search, the group gets excited because they think they found a piece of tin.
Like that cast aluminum.
Yeah, it sounds like it, but
Weird stuff, isn't it?
But it turns out to be just more limestone.
yeah, on the bottom. Just shows how hard it is to know what you're looking at. Every little piece of limestone looks like a bone. And
Walking on broken china.
and if you weren't here, I would have said, I found myself a piece of tin. This is a cairn, rebuilt over another cairn near Crozier's landing place. The last person to rebuild this cairn were the Beatty expedition in 1982, 12 years ago. And they used it as a marker from which they could measure out the campsite used by Crozier and his 105 men on the 25th of April, 1848, when they came ashore. We're just a few miles south of Victory Point, even though Crozier believed himself to be at Victory Point, and this is often called Victory Point, this campsite. Supunger knew it as a place where there were 4 stoves, and that was confirmed both by McClintock, who went through 2 years before Supunger was here, and by Schwatka, who found the same 4 stoves 15 years later. And Supunger's story says that somewhere within a quarter mile of the beach, there was a raised sandy part, and that's where they buried the records and where he found the large hole covered over with flat rocks. Nothing draws the eye, but there are certainly more sandy areas within a quarter mile of this beach than there were farther inland. So we intend to do a search along these gravel ridges, see what we can find. This ridge is quite consistent with Supunger's explanation of where we should be looking. It's about the right distance from the coast. You can see that the surface is a lot sandier than most of the time, what we walk on most of the time, though it's not what we would describe as sandy. We got to remember that the Inuit word was probably not exactly sandy, more diggable perhaps. Along this ridge we found tent circles, Inuit tent circles, and a few piles of stone which were undoubtedly meat caches. These two are very curious because they're so regularly shaped. You got rectangular shape. Someone's gone to great care to make sure line up these heavy rocks so that they form walls and ends. And another feature of Supunger's story was that near the place he was describing, some of the white men had been buried. And though to us burial means in the ground, this is a typical way that Franklin's men were buried when found other places on the coast. Just laid on top with the rocks built over them.
Victory Point, 26.
26 Victory Point, 5 square here, Dave.
Loud and clear, go ahead.
It's Monday. Today is spent getting permission to take a better look at the skull. Mark Bartuli of the Cultural Centre is working in Resolute. Hobson spoke to her after he checked in on Monday evening.
How are you tonight? How can I help you? Over.
Did you get the message that we left with David earlier today? Over.
I got the message that you would like to collect some bone and cultural material from the surface. Is that correct? Over.
Affirmative on that.
Can you give me a brief description of what it is you'd like to collect and where you'd like to collect it from, please? Over.
Yeah.
Margaret, we found a human skull and a piece of tibia. We have not moved. We have not moved either piece, and we would like to take a small piece of bone from the bottom of the skull and a small fragment of the leg bone. How on that? Over.
I think that will be all right. Can you tell if the skull is Caucasian? Over.
I don't believe it is.
Negative on that. We have not lifted it, and we cannot tell. Walter does not think it is Caucasian, however, but he has not made the measurements. Over.
Everything sounds fine, George. I think that you can go ahead and collect those samples and just keep in touch with us. Good luck with everything else. If there's anything else I can do, just let me know. Over.
Nothing too exciting yet, Margaret, for your information, but we've got some more plans here. Victory Point clear then with 2-6.
Have you really changed your mind about whether you think it's Caucasian?
Well, that's the thing. No, I really, I would, like I said, without measuring, but the cheekbones are wide, but not outside, you know, like what you consider like normal just by looking at it, right? So, but like I say, I look at the nose and it's hard to tell without actually touching it, right?
Oh, what a beautiful morning!
2, 4, 6, 8, 10. We're all here. Okay, yesterday was the first day of rest. I think we all appreciated it. And a lot more laughing going on today because of the sun and no wind. Today's plan is to go back to Crozier's landing spot and the beaches inland and do it scientifically, the way we did this beach here, at a good spacing so that we know we've covered it all.
It's like looking for a needle in a haystack. Unless you're looking exactly at something, you're not going to see it. It's not like finding a beach ball on the beach.
I had this idea that, you know, I would go out and set up a flagpole and we'd stretch out and we'd walk to it and nothing would escape us. Looking at it on a map, you have no idea how big it is. And you certainly have no idea how rough it is on the feet, how hard it is to search.